Hardline fantasy, my experience as a comedian. Hardline fantasy, my experience as a comedian. Then hardline fantasy, and my experience as a comedian. We're gonna go back 3 times to each topic, like it's the Twilight Town from Pendragon 1,000 Year Door. Okay, we're gonna be that annoying. We need to match this in for 35 without going past 2 topics. So we're gonna go back and forth 3 times in a row. Maybe that's 4 or 3 each. You never know. Well, you don't know. But excuse the puffy afro get up thing. You don't notice this either. But unzipped my jacket, took out the hat, the bean cap, and the scarf, and just tied in this headband and not even headband, and gloves, and they took out the jacket, and then we went through this. So, Hardline fantasy. Ever heard of a book series known as, I don't know, Bobby Pendragon from DJ mackhale? Any of you guys? Any of you guys heard of it? Mackhale, like any of us, is just some man. And he's just some man. Like, bass fuzz style. Just some dude. I can't even say that. Just like everyone else. But, extraordinarily speaking, this man, this father, this husband, has written 8 books dedicated to hardline fantasy. And the idea of hardline fantasy, and I can describe this in a deep way or not, but the idea of hardline fantasy, or not even hardcore, well, it could be, but hard fantasy or hardline fantasy is the idea of fantasy being acting accordingly. This is my words of putting it. Connotation. Hardline fantasy is acting on the faith basis of suspension of belief, which is the crazy idea that for some reason, kind of like the cartoons Kim Possible and Clarence, there's a reason why the fantasy makes sense. It's not out of bounds crazy like Magical Madoka or Star Wars: The Force of Evil, where it's literally like just all bounds. Some of it makes sense anyways, but in those regards. This hardline fantasy genre where it makes sense why these characters have these powers and magical abilities in these environments and circumstances that are whimsical and whatnot. And even making sense of that. Because originally, and I'll mention this one more time, the suspension of belief works if you can actually get people to believe what's happening even if it's not real anyways. And it's like, it makes sense, it's good for story, it's not only unfair to discuss horror, but it can still make sense. For hardline fantasy's sake, it's any fantasy element or sci-fi, whatever else, not even that has to be sci-fi, if it can still make sense and then you can actually work with those abilities. You can dare say, even in a psychotic sense, you could tell someone about hard fantasy elements. They'd believe you in terms of the story or even real life. Because they actually would believe you. Take that way you will. Also, by the way, I know I got some hairs below the headband and above. But you know what? I forced this joke anyways for the next topic of 2 over and over. As above, so below. So screw the mistakes or imperfection. Because as above, so below. Had to force that in. Oh, let's go back now. Well, before we do, Dendron, or the first book, Merchant of Death, or I think Dendron's another code name for Bobby Pendragon. You can just call the books Bobby Pendragon, you'll find it online easily. But Bobby is the name of the main character when he's the 14-year-old hero male guy. He, of the 8 books, or 9 or whatever, 9, 10 books, I didn't read much more past maybe 2 or 3 books. I didn't finish the whole series. I skimmed through when I saw them being released, kind of like Harry Potter. You've seen the Community Tab post on that one. That was funny. But Witch and Wizard as well. But yeah, that's before this gets released. But Bobby, as any 14-year-old you would imagine, is mature enough to still believe in himself, but things can still catch him off guard. That's normal for any 14-year-old. That's like, you can literally just be like, you never have to have all the answers to your life, but you can still, you never will. But you certainly are going to be someone who's not like a cliche, oh, be 13 if legible, be 16 if more mature. Like, get past me with the ages and BS. Like, literally, like, we've seen the younger generations being more mature than the older. We've seen the older be more insightful with what they knew in spite of their experience than maybe, understandably, the younger. And it's like, Bobby, the way he reacts to being called for his destiny is understandable. Like when he literally, like when his uncle, I better spell this right. Not Ben. I'm not singing Ben. Not. Oh, it's, shoot. Okay. I might have to keep on my Kindle after this. Thank God it's charged. Yeah. Using my fantastical nose, we can do this. I'm not pulling the gloves off. You get to see me do this. You get to see me do this in the scheduled video. Okay. Yes, I used my nose for that. You're welcome. Kindle. Come on, just pull the right page. Anywhere where I probably left off in the first book that I had. Okay. The Merchant of Death. Nosy. Come on. What's his uncle called? Do I even remember beforehand? Okay. Did Mark know? I'm gonna literally remember before I even see it. What the hell? Uncle Max. It's Press. Uncle Press. My nose found out for you. It's Uncle Press. I was gonna say Uncle Max. What the hell? Uncle Press. And Quinchine, Mark. Yeah. Uncle Press. So his Uncle Press laying that on him. Yes. Thank you, nose, for the thing. His Uncle Press allows him to get into his destiny in the most earnest way while still robbing him a part of his childhood, which, as we all know, it's all good. So take that falsely how you will. But while robbing him of much of his second world life childhood, which we consider that second Earth for some reason, even to consider where Mark comes from, that location. Oh, that's that location? You just call it second Earth? What about the fourth book and the fifth book and yeah, whatever. But like, literally what I'm describing is like Bobby has a life that he already loves and has got to get even better. It's not perfect. It has its tremors, it has its traumas, it has its imperfections and bad things, but he's still grateful for it, and he still has to change that anyways because his destiny's calling for him. And it's like the way I kind of am a little surprised since like the first few chapters that the way in between Mark's journals, I mean Mark's reactions between Bobby's journals, but like when Bobby's still mad after all the other dangerous stuff happens at Uncle Press, and it's like, come on, dude. I'm speaking as someone who's not gonna edit in the tunnels. How I go about this. How he's angry at his Uncle Press for being forcibly getting into this all destiny. I kind of, you had to impress some kind of Laguz wildebeest kind of thing from Bones to imagine in my head. Even when you paint picture your head for reading a book for that matter. For the monsters that were attacking the snowy part. But and then they go to a tundra. That's actually kind of interesting. They go from a snowy hills to a tundra, and it's like, that's in my head. But again, in my head, you gotta paint pictures for reading a book. If you know, you know. Read books, guys. We know that. But before we get into the comedy section, 1 of 3 or 4 returns. Hardline fantasy, if I even explain this anywhere decent, compared to Bobby Pendragon Dendron, from The Merchant of Death to Bobby Pendragon the Great, these 8 books that mackhale wrote in 7 years or so, 7 to 8 years. Mackhale says in his own words, I have a little bit of projected trauma from this. My problem, not my fault, but my problem. Otherwise, as nothing's your fault, but it is your problem. 8 years is a long time for anybody, and it's true. Mackhale's right. 8 years is a long time for anybody. Even this guy, who thinks he can so-called remember everything, and then still be like, wait a minute, but I don't even remember living legitimately in my childhood, but I did. However projected and negative that sounds, I really did live a good childhood, and I really did live a good adulthood still currently. I don't have to call myself a 26-year-old kid for nothing, or a 26-year-old man, but there you go. Hardline fantasy, and to the effect of what makes it a humble fantasy, is not to bring in a genre that makes no goddamn sense like I'm making it look like. But hardline fantasy or hard fantasy, I think, without researching this at all, apparently, you're gonna want to look at these books. They're not limited in their magic. They're not limited in their supernatural qualities or their adventures, their environments, the characters you see in these books, in these where the pieces of projects and fiction you see, like in video games or comics or whatever, music. read something like Dengeron if you can. Read something like it. It's actually you'll it's not even it's medieval for Dungeon and Dragon weeps. No, literally like this is not nerdier than nerdier. Just read Dengeron. Read start from the Merchant of Death, get to buy Pendragon the Great, and then tell me that you actually didn't like that, because it's not specifically the hard fantasy that makes you like it, but it is a way to inspire that. So we're gonna immediately jump from that. Can't snap right now. Not with these snails. Gauntlets. What you're supposed to. Whatever. Not expanding that joke. Double gauntlets if they hit. Freaking doubling the. There's a theory. I'm gonna say it's at random. There's a theory that my brother had. This is connected to how I found about Body Pendragon, but there's a theory that in Thousand Year Door, I made this joke in the beginning of the video. There's a theory that Lord Grodus copied the crystal stars to get in and through the door with Princess Peach, and it's like that's quite a theory. Well, how is that relevant? Because I literally was playing against the Hooktail's brother's boss while I was being introduced to the Body Pendragon series. Long story short, my two father figures explained pretty well to me why that was why it was a good idea to get that book if there was an interesting inspiration. The reason that's relevant to Thousand Year Door is because I kind of see Paper Mario as a bit of its own hard fantasy. It's like not too much of it is whimsical, not too much of it is out of the ordinary, but it can still work, suspension of belief or not, without any suspension of belief of the Super Mario series anyways. But as per the Twilight Town reference, I will probably make videos about what I think about the birds, and I made jokes about that before sometimes. You've seen the AMV philosophy video about Martian Chronicles, which is another book, but the movie adaptation series putting the audio behind the visuals of the ball against Dupless the first time. How does all this connect? How is it all relevant? Whoa! I managed to make all the strings attached to the last second. All the videos I end the videos at the last second. Gosh, I'm really killing out my watch time for this, but no, because I bank too hard on some of you being here just for me. But no, I'll make the most of your time. I'll try and make it interesting. I already do so far. So, we're going to comedy. When I was much younger, I actually managed to always have there's two things that comes into this play. They pretty much reminisce competence and confidence. Confidence comes. Don't worry about that. Confidence comes with confidence, and confidence comes with confidence. You never want to be too slacky to not have any results and ambition and progress in your life, to not be worrying about that rather than confidence. But if you don't believe in yourself, the progress doesn't count anyways. They come hand in hand. Same with this applies even with comedy. You want to believe in yourself, in your ability to be funny, but you also want to be able to validate you're funny to an extent, right? Not just to yourself, but to everyone else. You can't be that slipstick. You really shouldn't have to be. But maybe you don't have to prove to everyone, or even yourself, or anyone in particular, if even not yourself. When I was younger, the jokes I would tell at first were things like the Pacific Ocean, da-dum-ts, and other some stuff. It's like they were good jokes to me, and they were corny at worst, and they were even nonsensical at even worser than worst. But Pacific Ocean, whatever. You just have to believe in your own humor. You really do. It took me about maybe high school when I was like writing a comedy video essay for. Thank gosh my creative writing substitute was there. He was even better than the original teacher. I didn't even know her, but like, I'm counting on that because he gives advice like the $3 McDonald's menu strategy with dating, and it's like, and then you hear people who actually have been in relationships say like, oh, that's probably because you've never been in a relationship before. It's like, you don't know that, and even if you do, so what? He's still giving good advice. It's like stuff like that. So the essay I'm writing for comedy, it was comedy. I chose it was a comedy, romance, and some of you guys remember this if you know me, Tony Cash, comedy, romance, and action packed whatever. Hell, no, it was like cinematic, romance, and comedy, and I remember very clearly even what I did for cinematic, action, and romance. But comedy, there's this one specific joke I would tell. And by the way, if you don't know this already, this video will be scheduled for tomorrow, well before noon again. and I'll follow this video up with another in the same day in real time. I'll make a video for the later afternoon, lunch hours. If you're curious, but like, there's one joke I would tell, and this joke is very specific. It's like, and it sounds, if you can entail this in a philosophical way, good for you, because that's already the point. The joke I would tell that would be repetitive going forwards, even now, is this thing that happened, which didn't actually, by the way, obviously, then happened to make this funny. This thing that happened, which did not actually happen in itself, then led to this. What's the point of a double positive? How is that funny? It's funny because it's so bizarre and nonsensical. When you have a double contradiction, not just being the opposite way it is, but the opposite of the opposite. When you say that it's there and then it's actually not there. Oh, by the way, it's not actually there. What are you really telling someone? Are you even telling them a joke? Or even telling them any information of a joke? That was my kind of humor. You can call it dry if you want. I'm not going to call you a hater, I promise. Not yet. But that kind of humor was me. And it's like, you imagine that may or may not last in improv, but whether it's overthought or not. But you just have to believe in your own humor. You have to be someone who actually legitimately does not cap when they say that they're funny, if they can prove that they're funny to themselves or other people, but you have to also believe in it. You can't just be someone who's insecure with a successful humor on a subjective or objective scale, or be someone who only thinks best for the toxic positivity reasons, if eligible, for humor that never actually worked out for them. It comes hand in hand. You have to believe in your humor. You have to be good humor. But you'll know when you get there. You'll know. That's just, comedy is just one example how that works. I even said one time, I think in 2021, it was one of my goals, feminine side, what was it? One of them was feminine side, shadow work for that matter, being more comedic, and the third other goal. I think it was like related to like being disciplined. But yeah. No, it's like discipline something else. But yeah. Being comedic, being funny, being in touch with my masculine feminine balancing. And it's like whatever thing was the third one. We're going back to Hardline Fantasy. Round 2. Oh, by the way, Real Mar, I've seen your video. That good thing I already have these on. Just 2 rounds to see you chucksters like dish it out in the high school parking lot. Oh, just actually good for you guys. The homies are where it's at. Really. Between people like Real Mar and the rest of you, like, yeah, those are the kind of vlogs I live for. It seems immature, but if you do it well, even you got 26-year-olds like me to root for you. Like, literally. It's just, like, that's the only thing I need the goals for. Just to make that joke. That's one. So, Hardline Fantasy. Mackhale, when he finished the series, I keep making this example for a reason. Hardline Fantasy. Okay, so I've seen, before we get back to Mackhale, he thinks about, I'm going to be careful how I word this, because this gets a little repetitive over time, especially considering the trend my content has been going lately. Let's just put it like this. I'm not too afraid of it, but we'll just be careful this time. Mackhale has a heart, okay? He knows there's a sunk cost fallacy to everything. Everything. Like, anything you put your energy to, butterfly effect, you have to make the most of your time. You could say this in terms of thanatophobia. Okay, stop. Thanatophobia. What else? Like I said, butterfly effect. Wherever choice you go down, all our timelines collapse, or even time travel, whatever the hell you call that. The Earth, whatever, ripping apart thing. You have to choose something. And it takes us down to the Jack Omnidroid POS I am, but not going to take that too personally or even be too pessimistic about it. But there's a bit of a allegory to work with to that, where you choose too much of the Peter Pan stuff, you go through the multitasking extrovert stuff, and then it's like, will you actually choose your sacrifice for once? Me, personal level of that? What I'm getting at is that Mackhale chose to write these books, and he didn't regret it. He knew he could have done anything else with his life, but he didn't regret where he went down. He couldn't have not been too hard on himself, especially if he would have waited too long. Kind of like me. But no, it's like a... And so you see these things where his little daughter and his wife and all the things he could be doing this time. Maybe as he's passing time playing poker on his computer, and as he said in the forward, just tapping his bare foot, just wondering what else he could be doing in his life than instead of riding Bobby Pendragon. He even says in the forward, you know, not so much that there's nothing better to do, but why would I not want to do this? How beautiful. How beautiful that man is. Like, just a true DJ, mackhale is, of his life. We got 15 more minutes for this scheduled video. So when he's writing Bobby Pendragon the Great, as you can imagine, Jill writing Deathly Hallows part, not the movies, Deathly Hallows the full book. She know like as because Jill Rowling knows she's gonna actually say like Base Fuzz has a really good video on Harry Potter if you want to watch that, but I won't be able to link that after this, but just look up BASSFZZ, and Zarius will have a video about Harry Potter in his backlog somewhere, and it's really good. Like he explains the J.K. Rowling thing very briefly, and nuances other things, but he explains Harry Potter strictly as professional as he can, and then suggests the other things very profoundly. Zerst is a real one for that. Seriously. Say what you will about Zerst or even J.K. Rowling, but so as Jill knows she's gonna write Deathly Hallows before getting to Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone. Same with DJ Mackhale writing maybe possibly the gardener architect kind of way of making stories. When you know at least one way your story's gonna end, they cover this in Film Courage, YouTube, but when you know at least one way your story's gonna end, and you can still create other routes alternative to what looks like it will get there. You don't have to end up there, but it works as a stepping stone to work through the rest of your story. Especially if you do get to that point, that'd be nice. But if you didn't have that, kind of not always, but like having that is nice. It's a paradox in itself to think that your cornerstone will get you to things that aren't always as easy, even if you don't make it to that point. But it's beautiful. That's really good advice. It's like have at least one ending to the story you didn't even start writing it. And it's like, how do you know that? Well, you know the essence of your story. How do you know how to start writing it? But maybe just free writing would work out, even now, Rebo's sake. So I imagine, even if I'm talking lies right now, I can't imagine. Let's make up his name. Let's say he's called Derek, and I called J.G. Quintal Jack. If J.G. Quintal's not called Jack, forget it. But let's call him Derek. Not even for real quack's sake. For Incredibots. Derek mackhale. Derek Johansson mackhale. Okay, fine. We'll just call him DJ. We'll call him mackhale for again. I'm sorry, Mr. Mackhale. Mr. Mackhale. How inappropriate of me. But Mr. Mackhale, he had to have known that he was gonna end with Bobby Pendragon the Great before starting Merchants of Death. Had to, because the essence of his story would not prevail for the 8 books. Same with Harry Potter. It just wouldn't have. Like same with any other book. Percy Jackson. Again, Sense of King Post Witch and Wizard. Freaking even the Die Won't Be Kids series for that matter. Amelia Rules, as I keep mentioning, where that went on a good note for 8 books as well from Jimmy Gonley, and even some other light novels with Wandering Witch Lane, Angels of Death. It's for the if you know you know. But again, he had to have known. Back to comedy. Quick switch there. I've known some really good comedians over my life. We're going to talk about a couple of them. Maybe. Actually, maybe not all of them. But one of the worst things that comes with creativity is either having my philosophy on my own. So for me, my problem with creativity was either people didn't know what creativity even was, or they just don't know how to use it properly. And it's like, there are people who use creativity as their worst nightmare. We've seen this happen. The comedian and actor Robin Williams. Okay, I'm not saying it was his fault that he committed suicide. I'm not saying it was there are theories about how he could have survived. There are ways that people have been about he wasn't that old. Like not even like I couldn't say controversially what president I'm talking about here, but that's all you know. But long ways back, several presidents behind. But so that now you can get a very good hint there. But not too many far back. But Robin, between many of his features like Aladdin, Peter Pan, Will, you don't want to try. I'm not gonna talk about like you know which movie that is, right? The one with the the Harvard kid and the therapist. So that one. Uh, it's not Will Hunting. It's like called like I got time for this. I got 5, 10 more minutes. Is it literally called Will's Hunting? I kept thinking like that. Will's Hunting. Will's Hunting. Aladdin, the cartoon. Peter Pan, some of the other ones. The very last film he made in like 2017, 2018, before he killed himself. I think that was a really good movie. Like the last live action he did when he was kind of getting up in age, but still could have hanged in there. And you can again dislike the video if you have to, but I actually believe what some of the theories are going by, where he really could have just hanged in there one more time. And because there were ways that he could have dealt with it. There were facetious ways to describe it, like, oh, he had the money and he had the power, the fame. Not even that, really. He had the creativity to do it. He had the creativity. He had the charm, the energy. Even in a sort of like a Christopher Lee way. You've seen that short. Maybe. Christopher Lee kind of way, where the last time you're there on the earth, you make a profound statement about things people wouldn't think you would have still done continually and perpetually until you die. And that was like profound for Christopher to be like that and able to convey that very well. I'll converse in 9 minutes. I'll go, where I got this. Where even as you still are there on the mortal middle earth, you're still making amends with your life. You still have things to do in your life that I promise to have to keep. Indeed. Ever still. Charles Xavier. I think creativity is not supposed to be escapism. That's my point I'm trying to get to. Creativity is not supposed to be escapism in itself. It's supposed to be, at best, sometimes a solution to create escapism. Not so much to escape from reality, but creativity should be a tool to find ways to understand life as well as amend with what things like art and animation could be. One of the stop-motion animator tutors who explained this really well, you already kind of know what I'm talking about, hopefully, if you've watched my channel a lot longer than this, who explained that animation and art are not supposed to be reflections of reality, but rather a different dimension of it, apart from it, but still connected, ever still. Same with connected to your life, to your storytelling. Authors can never be devoid of revealing their personal life and their stories and their characters. It's described it too simply and briefly and subtly, but, I mentioned that before a little bit. So again, hot take on Robin Williams. I'll bring this back one more time to DJ mackhale, if that doesn't sound too scary. And then we'll go back from comedy to dark hardline fantasy. We'll actually collect all together with this. Hardline fantasy and comedy. Some of the most charming people in your life, the most charming moments, are the things you neither think the worst nor the best about. Kirby. That 1/8 character from The Ones Within. High Five Ghost. Freaking Gumby. That's a main character from Claymation. That still could be underrated in a different light. Oh, I don't know, Saya from Wandering Witch. Neither the best nor the worst, right? Doesn't have to even be seen that way, but that's my example. And that would be enough for examples for this video, as I haven't agreed already. When people say don't take life too seriously, they're not trying to measure the fantasy of their lives. I'm forcing this too much. They're not trying to measure the whimsical fantasy of their lives in a way where they're not denying too much of what they could understand. When people say life is not meant to be understood, it's meant to be experienced, they're also right. I don't want to be someone who just goes about life never truly delving what really was a passion to understand myself and my identity and whatever I identified with, other things. All the like of that. Not going to make another offensive YouTube short about that if I don't have to. Maybe not. Too many of my shorts are hardline offensive as they are. Hardline in their own ways. But hard or hardcore indeed. That way, finally. as we approach the last 5 minutes. It you can say things, all these specific things like hardline fantasy don't have to be there. They don't have to be understood. We don't really need much of art to be understood anyways, even if it would be nice. Like the way we don't really understand how much of anime and manga would have been different if it were better understood. Some people don't even think that's important anyways. I can see why they would say that, even if that's so offensive apparently. But where you can take from a country who other controversial thoughts that I can make shorts about, where it's like, of course, a country that never sees anything different would want things to be completely different in their entertainment, and who suffered so much trauma in their history would want things to be whimsical, or even dark, all the same, dark or whimsical or both, kind of like Madoka and Werewolves. Some people will make cherishing light out of their lives. They'll live everyday lives like it's the last, and they'll be funny. They'll be measured in what they do with the magic of their lives. They'll be themselves. It could be their last day on Earth. They could be Christopher Lee and Robin Williams. They will be what makes the most of any of us. I don't have regrets. Mackhale probably doesn't have regrets. I mean, if he does, it's because he's trying to be a better person, and he's trying to make the most of his humanity. If I don't say that right now as a kid or a man, screw me. But maybe I was that lucky and brilliant with my life. Who knows? Only I would trust my intentions at the point. But however arrogant that would be or not. But enough of you guys already said, like before, who've known me, that it is entirely possible that maybe I just don't have regrets because I really was that careful and that trying new things kind of person. Never made mistakes trying new things, Albert Einstein? No, I try new things and then make mistakes. Call back, dude. That was too arrogant. Try to read some of these books. Try to read some of these literature takes. Be funny in her own way. Be someone who can go back and forth between things, complementary symmetry or not. What I even call the reposition 4. The reason that Twilight Town is not annoying level to me, as far as going back and forth between the maps and the stages of that game, in that one chapter, I was very afraid of playing that chapter. When I was in Glitz Pit, I never wanted to advance to the 4th chapter because I knew what was going to happen getting there. It's not so much to be afraid of something suggesting fear, but it's like, for me, the birds are deep. For me, the freaking Zatus from Pokemon are deep. And Registeel and Lucario to an extent for the interfragility. You can see in Super Smash Bros. Especially going forwards in Brawl. Even with some of the nerfs and all that kind of stuff. But that was necessary. And it's... And other ones like Porygon, and then... You've seen the very first short, you know what I'm talking about. That was supposed to be a short. So I did see that level being very deep, and why would I have to? If it could have just been as glamorous as a wrestling floating island, or even falling after the Pirates Island, you can't skull bait, whatever. It compels me. Something that annoying still compels me because I just happen to be that deep and intuitive and all the other bells and whistles. I can see that value in a game like that. For not even just being a good RPG, but for being a good storytelling game. And even deeper than storytelling, what I see within that storytelling. Every part that someone commented back to me about commenting on that. Where it's like, how did you know how to see something this beautiful and something that could have easily been the worst level in the game? It's like, happened to be a crack in the flower in the sidewalk, right? Last 40 seconds. Indeed, the cliche would be that beauty is where you find it because you are beautiful, and that the grass is always green where you grow it. I got a really good end card for you guys. I got this. We'll make this count. Okay. Garfield's Cartoons Jim Davis once said, the real one It's not funny because it's cliche, but because it is true.